Hi, today we're talking about improving self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is about our perceptions of our abilities, like how good we think we are at doing certain things, which might be our schoolwork, it might be how good we think we are at skateboarding, playing video games, doing yoga, but it can be general as well, about how competent we feel we are at dealing with life's challenges in general. So when we've got more self-efficacy, we're more likely to persevere and succeed. And self-efficacy is particularly important in times like these, when we need all the motivation we can get.
So I'm joined today by LěNH, psychologist and CEO of PsychApps, a company that builds apps and games to enhance mental health and well-being. LěNH, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Well, I'm a clinical psychologist, and I have a company that takes psychology and therapy and puts them into a game so that when you're on your mobile phone, instead of just popping bubbles, you're actually learning psychological skills that you need to be able to deal with mental and emotional stressors while you're having fun.
So today we're talking about self-efficacy and our belief in our abilities. So would you say there's anything in particular that you're good at?
The unique talent that I have, especially in my space, is to merge two very unlikely fields together. So I have my clinical education, and I come from kind of like your classical university academic background. But at the same time, I have a very commercial view of things. And I would say my talent is fusing unlikely fields together. Like most people, when they hear games, they don't think treatment or therapy or building resilience or, anything like that. But at the same time, if you take a step back, you say, okay, how do you treat people if you're not sitting face to face? You have to make it somehow fun or engaging or something like that. And people love to play games. Like, why not make therapy fun and enjoyable? And I think that talent of seeing things that don't seem to fit together and then bringing them together and then actually making it work could be considered a talent.
So a lot of us are living differently at the moment, and we're trying new things. Some of us are cooking like we've never cooked before, but it is tough when you start something and you compare yourself to people at the pro level. Like, it's disheartening when you think about the difference between being kind of a novice and a pro. Like, how do you deal with that?
I once read an article that really kind of like resonated with me. In that article, it says the difference between seeing someone as an inspiration and being envious of them is if you feel you're entitled to where their space is, right? A lot of the times they are there because they have had a lot more time and effort put into that than I ever have. I can't expect to start something. I guess it's not a very strong example, but I'm starting video yoga. And I'm looking at these people doing the downward facing dogs, and like their back is straight and their legs are straight. They look like a wiggle when I do it. And I'm like, why are they so bendy? Why can't they do that? But they've been doing that for 8 years. I've been doing that for how long have we been locked in? 4 weeks, And
I suppose we've got a lot of time at the moment. So some of us, like yourself, trying out yoga, maybe picking up an instrument. There's so many kind of sources of inspiration for trying things. So what do you think about this idea that you can be a kind of a jack of all trades, or maybe a master of one in particular? Like, would you say it's good to kind of spread yourself out, or to really focus on one thing?
Well, if I may take as an example my startup is very small. Like, we're 3 people regular, and then we have a bunch of freelancers, right? And as the founder and the CEO, I'm kind of doing everything, jack of all trades. I have to do the financials, I have to do the marketing, I have to do the research, everything, right? And in a way, I ask of myself that I know enough to be able to recognize if I need help or if I'm doing something right or wrong, but I don't have to be professional in everything, just enough to kind of like get us to the next level where maybe I can start hiring the right person and understanding if the person that I'm hiring actually knows what he or she is talking about. So I don't believe we need to be jack of all trades. I think if we do want to have a very widespread knowledge, kind of tap into that just to know enough that we don't know what we know. And that will give us the power to make reasonable decisions.
And I just wanted to ask, like, I've been trying a few things. Like, I've been trying to cook. I've always meant to learn how to make Cornish pasties, which is a kind of a traditional dish from the south of England. And they came out fairly inedible. I don't think that they were safe to eat. How do you deal with failures and setbacks?
Oh, I'm really sorry to hear about your cooking disaster and your poor family. I would say I give myself the time to grieve, to feel a little bit sorry with myself and say, how come this didn't work out? I tried so hard. And then I kind of try to revisit the situation and say, okay, what didn't I get right? And why didn't I get right? And can I change that? And then at the last step, say, do I want to change that? My partner's a better cook than I am, and I used to pride myself as being a good cook. And I was really like fighting it and trying to have cook battles with him. And at the end, I'm like, you know what? Actually, it's not too bad when your partner cooks well. I'm like, okay, I'm going to go read a book. Call me when dinner is ready. So it's a choice. And you have to just evaluate how much you want to put in there and then what you can change. And if you really are passionate about something, you go back and you just learn what you need to learn.
Absolutely. And it sounds like it's useful when you've got like shared skills in your household. Mm-hmm. Maybe somebody is the better cook, maybe somebody is better at something else, and hopefully you've got things there which you can do together and help each other learn.
Are you going to give it a second try?
I may at some stage when we've recovered, when like the damage has subsided, when the memory has eased. I will try again. I'm not too disheartened anyway. Do you think it's possible to become too confident in your abilities or yourself? Are there any risks there?
Absolutely. I think when you get a little bit lazy, like you've had a few good outcomes, and then you just assume, because there's a learning curve, right? And most of us will never reach the pinnacle. And halfway there, we feel like we've got it all. And then we don't look out for ways to grow or progress anymore. And then I think that's very dangerous when you think you know it all, but you don't. That can happen. I think it's important to kind of like stay humble and keep on looking out for opportunities to grow, even if you don't think you need it.
And there's a lot of people out there who they're seeing these guides for inspiration about things they can do or things they can do differently. And they're thinking, I'm not that kind of person. Like, yoga's not for me. I wouldn't be any good at that. I'm not the kind of self-motivated person that can work at home. For people who don't seem to be giving themselves a chance, like, what might you say to encourage them? Well,
I think sometimes, first of all, we have to be very clear about why we want to do something, right? So I know you're a runner. And you can run very far. And I'm not a runner. And there's something in me that says, I should run. And I know it's healthy. And, there's runner high and endorphins. It's really good for your mental health. But at the other hand, that might not be for me. So what I think is really important is to question your motive of wanting to push yourself to do something. And if it's for external reasons, then to maybe let it go. If you say it's not for me, then maybe it really isn't for you. If it's for reasons that you're afraid of failure, or you're afraid of bad feedback, or you're afraid of, making a fool of yourself, then those are something that I would challenge and say, okay, let's start with baby steps. Do something small, do the yoga class all by myself with nobody coming into the room. They don't see that I'm a squiggle instead of the downward facing dog. And then, work myself when, the restrictions fall and social distancing lowers, that maybe to go to a real class, go to a class that isn't populated very much, and so on and so forth. And then you can push yourself.
I like that. Yeah, we are kind of in environments where we can try things out in a safe way. We can make a fool of ourselves. We can play instruments terribly. We can sing awfully, and we can just see how that works for us, whether we do like it or not. Great. Okay, well, I think that's all we have time for today. So thanks, Soja, for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me.
So in summary, self-efficacy is that feeling that we have what it takes. That might be for certain things, like knowing that we're good enough to pass a test, or it can be general, like knowing that we can handle whatever life throws at us. Think about 3 things that you've achieved recently. How did they make you feel? And now try and think about 3 things that you want to achieve this week and how they might make you feel. We've got more instructions for today's activity on our website. You'll find the link in our profile bio.